5th of March doesn't look like we're going to have any easing. What reaction are you getting from businesses out there? I mean, we're all in this together, so there's very little can be done about it. So maybe it's a stupid question.
Yeah, no, and listen, there's I think the general feeling and concern with businesses at this stage is we've reopened and closed 3 times, and all the emotions that brings with it, particularly for employers and employees, having those tough conversations of unfortunately being laid off again and trying to give people a sense of hope. There's also a lot of employees, Keith, that maybe in their businesses at the stage they are coming close to redundancy or retirement, or this has triggered entitlements for those. And to be fair to the employers, the employees have been long-serving and they want to look after them, but they know if they do look after them, it's going to deplete cash flow further. So it's not just necessarily a question about when we're going to reopen, and I know that's what's burning on people's minds. There needs to be the right toolbox of incentives and supports that's genuinely going to help support what happens. And I think from many business owners at this stage, there's nearly, I won't say a begrudging acceptance, but an acceptance that let's not go reopening so that we're open for 4 weeks and we have to go through all this again. So if the data and if the numbers aren't at the level that they need to, and I think the big concerning factor that's always the variable out there is vaccinating a certain amount of the population that gets to a sense that the vulnerable are protected at least. And some business owners are accepting that until such time as that happens, there's not really a huge point in reopening to potentially have to close again in 3 weeks' time. Let's just try and size this, get it right, and provide the supports to the businesses so that they can remain viable. And I think it's a mixture of injection and funding, and we hear there's and we welcome the announcement this morning for certain in the tourism sector. Further funding. Again, like everything, the devil is in the detail, and that will benefit a certain amount of businesses. It's not going to make them up, but it'll at least give a bounce to cash flow. So our call to government at the moment is let's try and get this right, and I think there is an appetite within government that we can't go into a 4th opening and closure. So if it's a case that we have to hold as we are to protect lives and to make sure that the least amount of people get sick, that's fine. But if we're doing that, we need to give the right amount of incentives. And the other bit, Keith, is the sleeping giant in many ways, is the debts, both the business debts and the personal debts of business and employees. We are calling very clearly, and I did a call out to members in the wider business community Friday, a week ago, looking for feedback. And what's coming in at this stage is there's going to have to be another round of forbearance. And to be fair to the banks, they want to do it, but they're restricted by the central bank. So there's a lot of lobbying in terms of that. And we have a call this Friday. I'm delighted to be part of it with Minister for Finance's team, Pascal Donoghue, in terms of these interventions. Where are we and what more is needed? And I think a lot more is needed. So in short answer to your question, I think you're right. If there is some movement on the 5th of March, I know people are very practically calling out hairdressers and essential services. How are we going to deal with this? Because if that's not open for another couple of months, there's just some very practical issues. But we're not going to see large-scale reopening. And I think many in the business community are saying that's probably right. But in the absence of that, we need serious interventions.
All right, we'll touch base with you later in the week on this one. But Kenny, Deery